Yeah, it's a
So
Poland.
actually,
Uh-huh.
we will start the class. Before the class, some of his experience within short time he's describing, because this is a very interesting thing. And before we guide other students for taking up new project, I
Yeah,
thought,
Sanjeevji, let me
so
tell Sanjeevji, it's a my studies on the Polish refugees who are here in India. Do you know the Poland people who are here in
Polish.
India?
Acha, Polish.
Yeah, Polish people, Poland, the
Okay,
Jews,
okay, got.
Jews one.
Okay, okay,
Uh-huh. So I'm working especially on that particular subject because
okay,
these
okay,
People from Poland, the refugees,
okay, okay,
whom the Hitler had attacked on the Poland, and they had dispersed from their own homeland, and then they traveled to Siberia. And then I'm discussing about how their journey was from Siberia to Kolhapur
okay, got
refugee
it,
camp.
got it, got it.
The first, then they went to Balachadi, where the Raja
Okay, sir. Okay,
Jam
Rohitji.
Sahab, they assisted these Poland some 1,000 refugees, but later on they came to know that they cannot accommodate more than 1,000 there. So later on, British government transferred this one more people to Kolhapur state principal. That is a subject which we are discussing, in fact, and now where I was okay. So this is my study going on, and
yes,
working on the. Recently, they had also paying visits, and they are helping, India relation and Poland relation. Even during the Ukraine attack by Russia, no, many displaced people from Kolhapur who were there studying medical sciences. I think when they heard of Kolhapur, they sheltered them in Poland. So this is a good gesture from these people because they still remember and they come to Kolhapur every year, and whatever the financial aid required to maintain the cemetery or the Poland, now they are establishing a museum there at the site. This is funding by the Polish government, and this is my study now. I'm preparing a question.
Rohit, I think
Yeah.
you made the brief introduction about your study. So the
Okay.
good thing is Rohit is showing so much interest. We are preparing a small project also, and we are
Yeah.
also preparing a research paper.
Yeah.
So there is no limit actually to this kind of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
we are doing our best. So I
Yeah.
just want to say all of you, these are the study which can make your overall program fulfilling, and you can make a brilliant career.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we are all here to help you. But by next week, if you can propose some topic, we have 1.5 years to mentor you so that you can have a
Yes.
very good, outcome. So
Yes.
this is
Yes.
what I want to say. Okay, so
Uh,
I'm sorry because
No, 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 perfectly fine. I think these are all perspectives which add on to, the larger study.
yes.
uh,
So
Abhay sir, Abhay
hmm,
sir, I'm feeling quite nostalgic to work because I'm feeling short of words also here because it's just so overwhelming. Uh,
yes.
there are no words to describe because my work
Absolutely.
is on the field and my work will tell discuss more on this.
Absolutely.
But I am
Absolutely.
telling you on by words.
Absolutely.
Uh, yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much for my
So
invitation.
maybe some break time will take to listen Swedish also, but let's now start our class. Okay?
Okay. So in fact, people can directly contact Rohit on WhatsApp if you have a WhatsApp group. Unfortunately, I am not on WhatsApp, but I'm sure
We
you
have we
guys,
have we
you
have
have a group.
five
So people can
WhatsApp.
directly ask Rohit about the project, about how he went about, and so on and so forth. That way, you can take it at your own convenience. Yes, absolutely, Anushka. You are absolutely right. These are some things which can be done offline. In fact, I always encourage that you should be sharing something. Shrestha has been doing this regularly. She comes up with stuff that she reads and then she shares, and so it all adds up to the perspective. As I kept saying, in fact, in the group, I'm seeing some very there is names which I'm seeing for the first time. Welcome to the group, Sophia. I see Khushi, Anshif Ali. I haven't
Thank you,
seen
sir.
this name before. I have seen most of you previously. Kalpana, I think I have seen before. So, welcome to this group. In case you are not a part of the WhatsApp group, please join and share anything interesting that you read. Without much ado, let me start on the transnationalism. In fact, this is what we were doing last time. Didn't finish. Before I start, can anybody in the group tell me the difference between a migrant, a transnational, and a diaspora or a diasporic person? What is the difference between a migrant, a transnational person, and a diasporic person? Whoever can. Can anybody give this difference? Even you can put it on chat. I can see your chats. So, what's the essential difference between a migrant, a transnational, and a diasporic person? How do we distinguish between these three? In fact, that's the reason why I'm taking a little more time on this particular concept, because if you are able to understand the concept, the rest of the thing becomes easier. Guys, can you hear my voice? I hope everybody can hear my voice. Okay. Migrant is
Yes.
someone, Shrestha says, migrant is someone who crosses state or international boundaries for a short duration. Okay. So what is a diasporic person and what is a transnational person? Who would like to take a guess?
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
Who's that?
Yeah,
Who's
this is Veera, sir. Am I audible?
Veera. Yeah. Hi, Veera. Tell.
Okay. The main, from our observation or our lessons, the main difference between migrant person and diasporic person is citizenship.
Okay. How?
A person who is that means generally who is migrated to one person. That means the habitual country to settle in another country, that is
Okay.
migrant
Okay.
migration. Next, that person stayed in that country getting the citizenship even though the sense of belongingness is their home country,
Okay.
then it becomes the diaspora.
Okay. And how does transnational come into the picture?
This is also
Okay. So it's a very interesting.
the
So
one I
it's a
was
very interesting thing, and the interesting part is when I was reading through multiple, texts and books and articles, this aspect was not coming out very clearly. So I said, let me first start with this concept. Yeah, Shrestha, you were saying something.
I think with transnationalism, although I have some kind of, I think, contention with
Go.
Veera's.
Forget Veera's contention. You give your
Okay,
point of view.
okay. I think with diaspora has to do with, I think, a mental state more than, I think, the geography, whether citizenship or not, because we know that a lot of people who don't get the citizenship in a certain place, they are also going to account for being diasporic in a
Okay.
certain host country.
So how
So I
does
think it has to do,
Sorry.
and
Yeah.
transnationalism again. I think it's the more than the physical. I think um, mobility of a person. It has to do with I think the more cosmopolitan. I think nature of our environment today, with the people traversing different countries and living in different places, and not having a very I think strong sense of attachment with their homeland or even the host country. I think that would amount for transnationalism.
Okay. Anybody else? Anushka. Anushka has raised her hand. Yes, Anushka.
Where which what my understanding tells me, it's more like a transnational person could be one who's crossed the borders and is living maybe for the wage purpose, more likely from the perspective of a job. He or she has moved out of the nation. Where
Okay.
a diasporic person could be the one who's left their homeland, could be sending remittances, but they don't come often back to their homeland. They have their affiliation and an ancestry, but somehow have settled outside of their nation. Whereas a migrant in a very nutshell sort of an understanding, is more or less used from the perspective when it comes to the national origin, where one is moving from one state to another or one place to another. But we very in a very global perspective, we use transnational person than a migrant. So that is what my understanding has been so
So,
far.
Anushka, what would be the difference between a transnational and a diasporic person?
Transnational could be the one who has not lost the touch with their ancestry. They're
Okay.
coming maybe, every now and then back to their roots. But when
Okay.
it comes to diaspora, they're sending the money, maybe the remittances or the gift, but they have their ancestry to claim, but they're not coming back often. More like
Okay.
one who's
Okay.
moved to other states, maybe Singapore or Maldives.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Naman is saying a transnational may have two identities, whereas a diaspora has only one identity. Okay. Now we are getting into a very gray area, Naman. Anybody else would like to take a? There are two more hands raised. Aisha. Okay. Tell me, Aisha, what is your perspective?
So in my opinion, a migrant is somebody who has migrated for perhaps a short period of time and for a particular purpose, maybe for work or studies or something like that. Not
Hmm.
it's like it's not somebody who has been there for a long time.
Okay.
Um, and diaspora is somebody I think who has kind of settled into like a new country, new culture, and a person who is part of this community in a foreign state, for example,
Okay.
of their own community. And transnational to me seems like somebody who might have different identities. Maybe both their parents come from different places, or maybe they grew up in two different places, and like they don't have basically like one kind of home that they feel they belong to.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's my
Anybody else would
opinion.
like to take a call? We often talk of UN and other international as transnational. Okay. Anybody else would like to? Rohit. Yes, Rohit.
Yes, sir. I think, from my point of view, diaspora is a Greek word, means scattering or dispersed.
Okay.
And we can take an example of Jews diaspora, like
Hmm.
who were constantly been attacked or forced to move from one place to another.
Hmm.
So they had some longing to their home country, home
Okay.
place. Like say, for example, the Palestine. Okay, they had some memory back, very not clear memory about their origins, but still they are
Okay.
longing to go back.
Okay.
Like we have Jews in Mumbai, like they want to go back to the Israel, you
Okay.
know. So these, I think, this is we can understand from this point of view the word diaspora.
Okay.
Migration might be like due to a forced migration due to lucrative jobs, you can say, and you often use the word like immigration, all those. Uh, so
Okay.
emigration. So I think
Okay.
that is related to migration. People moving
Okay.
from one place to another in search of green pastures, in
Okay.
search of for employment, you can say. So this is the and transnational is something that people keep on moving from one place to another due to maybe due to their work profile or you know they're one continent from one other continent. They have the relatives there in different parts of the globe. So I think this is something a little bit information, I think, from my point
So
of view.
if you see, there is a certain amount of confusion and overlap when we are talking about these various terms. And that's why I thought it was very important to kind of clear these terms. Inevitably, our basic start to everything starts with a country and citizenship. And countries and citizenships are modern concepts. And inevitably, whenever a person moves from one country to another country, he or she is called a migrant. Whether it's a short term, long term, mid term, any term, it's a migrant. The process of moving out from one country is emigration, and into another country is immigration. These are just terminologies. As I've kept telling you, and I repeat it again, inevitably in academics and scholarship, one has to look at what is the definition to start with and who is giving that definition. So every time a person moves from one country to another country, they are a migrant. Migration can be forced, it can be voluntary, it could be anything. If it is a forced one because of certain conditions, that person becomes a refugee. But it's a migrant, it's a migration. Migration has been historically a human story. People have been migrating all the time. Is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take this forward. Every person or every community has a set of culture which the person grows up into, or the community has a particular culture. That culture could be in terms of food, it could be in terms of dressing, it could be in terms of kinship, it could be in terms of religion, it could be in terms of many other things that one deals in. So every person in any country or any ethnic identity, don't get into identities, because identities is very confusing. Don't get into identities. Every person grows up in a particular culture. Every community has a particular culture. Every time a person crosses a country into another country, he or she carries their culture along with them into the new country which they go in. Now, the point is, every migrant who travels, and this is more, remember, diasporic studies, transnational studies are all modern phenomena, because migration has been happening from the dawn of humankind. But what has happened is, once the concept of countries, nations, and citizens came in, then the concept of diasporic studies and transnationalism also came in. So now he or she is traveling with their culture into a host country, from a home country into a host country. Obviously, they have connections back home, because there will be kinship, there will be other family, there will be other relatives, or such a migrant who travels from one country to another maintains a connection back home. That is called transnationalism. There is always a connection back home. That connection back home could be based on the religion, culture. So for example, there is a caste person from India who travels to US. There will be some caste connections which will come. That's transnationalism. You are traveling into more than one country. Your
So can I
culture.
interrupt you?
Yeah, please, Shrestha.
So is there a term or any kind of a phrase that we use for people who sort of alienate themselves from their um home country, homeland? Like,
Absolutely. I'll come to that, Shrestha. Just let me just finish this line of thought in terms of a migrant, transnational, and diaspora. Once all of you get clear about these terms, then to negotiate, the kind of overlap which happens, and a lot of scholars use a lot of overlapping kind of, talk or write, and that gets confusing. So every person who travels from one country to another carries with him or her the culture and has a connection back home. These people are called transnational. And it could be one country, the host and the homeland. It could be multiple countries. So, for example, Indians who traveled from India to, let's say, Suriname or to Kenya and then went to UK have connections in all the three countries. And obviously, each country where they are, they develop a sense of an identity. Okay, so that's transnational. So far, so good. This is clear between migration and transnational, guys.
yes, sir.
Okay, now how does diaspora come into the picture? Now, these people who go, let's say, from India and go into the US, now once they are in the US, or remember, the transnational or a migrant also has a longing for home. He or she might be a short term, medium term, or long term, but there is definitely a remembrance back of home from where the person comes from. If he or she has that connections back home, that's transnational. But when the person goes in a host country and makes connection with other people of the same citizenship, of the same culture, that's diaspora. So all diasporic persons are transnational more often than not. All transnational persons may not be diasporic because they would not have connections in the host land. Is that clear? Guys.
So what do you mean they might not have connections in
So
the
for
host
example,
land?
correct. So for example, there is an engineer who goes for a project to the US. It's a 1-year project. Now his family is back in India. He goes there, or he goes there for 3 months or 6 months. It's a short-term project. It's a software project in which he works, let's say, with Google, and every day he talks back to his wife or to his mother or to his father or to his brothers. He's not talking to anybody, any other Indian out there. He has no connections out there. Is not a part of any network. He's just got a connection back home. He sends remittance back home. That's transnational. He's not a diaspora.
Okay, got it.
Shrestha?
Yes, sir. I also got it.
Yeah. So typically the diasporic comes in, and remember the longing for the homeland, real or imaginary, is definitely a part of diaspora. But remember that diaspora's definitions have also changed considering the fact that people who had gone earlier when there was no internet or global connectivity carried on a part of their native cultures with them in terms of artifacts, because that reminded them of home. But today, with globalization and interconnectivity and faster, communications and etc., they are able to connect back much faster. So the diasporas can come in and go back, as do transnationals, but the diasporas have connections in the host land based on the cultural or other identities from the homeland. That's what diasporas are. Guys?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Got it.
so you mentioned something that all diasporic people can also be transnationals, but that can it may not be so for somebody who's only interacting with the same ethnic community in the host land.
I know, but the point is, all diasporic peoples have gone from one country to another. And inevitably, whenever you are traveling, these human beings work with connections. We have extended families, we have networks, we have friends. There has to be some connection back home.
Okay, sir.
So you're right. For diaspora, the foreign country will be their home. For a transnational, so the point is that also is the case that transnational India will be their home. But the point is, assuming the fact that the person leaves India for a longer period of time, then that becomes a home. He may or may not quit the citizenship, but is there for a longer. For example, people who go for PR-ship, they are there in, let's say, Canada and Australia for multiple years. It's almost like they are having two identities in terms of a Canadian identity because they have applied for a PR, and they are still a citizen of India. Yes, that adds on to the fact that, but again, the fact is, a diasporic person is also a transnational because inevitably there is multiple identities which they work with. Transnational people have multiple identities. Rajni?
Migrants as well.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Rajni? Yeah.
Abhay. Hello, sir.
हाँ बोलिए.
Sir,
Who's that?
all transnational people can also be said. All transnational people are migrants.
All transnational peoples are all migrants are transnational people.
Sir, not all migrants, because then migrants there we have in India as well.
Okay.
In India as an example.
Okay.
Then
Now, when we are talking about transnationalism, we are bringing a term of nation in between. So the migrant, when we are talking about transnationalism, and we are talking about the migrant in terms of the moving from one nation to another. When we are talking about local migration, those are also migrants. You're right, Rajni. So when Indians are moving from one state to another, they are also migrants.
Yes, sir.
But
Yes.
they will not come under the category of transnationals, because they are not migrating from one country to another. So as I started by saying that the basic concept starts from the country and citizenship. Rajni?
I can add one point also.
Please, Sadan.
Thank you,
Because
sir.
transnational also cutting across nation. Some families, business people, and all this they cut across nation. For example, Kamala Harris. Okay, they have a family within India, Uganda, and in the USA. So also many entrepreneurs who got across various nations simultaneously, and many very often they meet during festivals, and their businesses expand from one country to another, family relation, all those things are transnational. Diaspora is again one country to another relation. This diaspora can be also transnational because both are interrelated. Okay, there is not much difference, but because of transport, internet, and all this, more and more people within diaspora becoming transnational. They cut across different countries, national boundaries, and they operate simultaneously. So that is the difference.
Correct. Khushi, you are absolutely right. Connected to one particular one particular ethnicity of home country. Some and so particularly what happens is the citizenship becomes a larger identity than the ethnic identities. So inevitably, people from India, multiple states of India with multiple religions or castes or languages, have a much bigger identity, which is the citizenship identity. So Indian diaspora is again not a homogeneous entity, but the citizen identity overcomes or is a superset of the ethnic identity. Khushi? Okay, so let's go through this once more. Some of these are a repeat of the last time. Let's go through it. Countries are socially constructed, imagined communities which people perceive them to be a part. Remember that. Once I am able to socially, construct in terms of when do I say I'm an Indian, am I an Indian only when I'm in the territory of India, or do I say I'm an Indian at any place in the world? So it's a socially constructed thing. Citizenship becomes a relationship between an individual and a state. My slide is not moving. Hang on, let me start again if the slides are not moving.
Hello?
Is it moving now, Shrestha?
Yes, sir.
No, sir, not yet.
Did it move right now?
No, it didn't.
Damn. Now, why are the slides not moving?
Balighat. Balighat.
Let's check this out. Shrestha, are you on the move right now?
Yes, sir. Right now, your slide just moved.
Okay, now is it moving?
Yes, it's moving now.
Okay. So I started with country, and these becomes very important concept. And again, as I said, these are modern concept. The whole concept of country Nation and state is a modern, the state is an older concept, but the whole notion of nationalism is a modern concept. And along with the nation comes citizenship. And citizenship is a relationship between individual and state, is the most privileged form of nationality. This is something which I did last time. I just wanted to go through this. Nationality also serves to denote the relationship to a state of entities other than individuals, corporations, aircraft, ships, etc. Citizenship are of four types: right of blood, right of soil, by marriage, and by naturalization. Citizenship also is a political concept and can work as both inclusive as well as exclusive. These become important because, Shrestha, when you ask this question, it's something like this. People do not, there are a lot of people, Indians, who have gone outside and settled in other countries and do not want to be called Indians, because it's that citizenship is a political concept. So for example, people in the Caribbeans would like to call themselves from Caribbeans because it gives them a privilege. Calling them Indians would not give them that kind of a privilege. So citizenship becomes an inclusive as well as an exclusive concept.
I just wanted to just add a little.
Tell me.
So I have so I'm studying I'm in Dubai right now,
Okay.
and over here, like I've noticed that people who have like Indian heritage, they are clearly Indian looking and everything. But whenever you ask them where they're from, they never say India. They say like Kenya, or they say Uganda or Zambia or something like that.
Correct.
And I asked them like, but you're Indian, right? Like, so they're like, well, I guess I am Indian, but I'm not. I'm from Kenya.
Correct.
And for them, it seems very normal to say like I'm
Correct.
from Kenya. But for me, it's strange because I can clearly see that you are an Indian person.
But
But
that
yeah,
is what they're because they might be the second generation Indian. However, for all practical purpose, their identity is linked to Kenya or Uganda or whatever it is. So, for
yeah,
example,
exactly.
today, Kamala Harris would not say she's Indian. They are now bringing a new term, which is Indian American, because that Indian part gives them an identity, which then, plugs into a political equation which is larger. So remember, political part of an identity becomes very important in the real world. And human beings are very fluid with identities. That's why when you were giving the example with identity, I always told you, keep the identity aside because identity becomes very complex that way. Shrestha? Shrestha?
Yes, I wasn't
Okay.
the one who asked the question.
Okay. So transnationalism was popularized in earlier 20th century by Randolph Boone. Concept of citizenship acts both as exclusion and inclusive. So there are again two terms which kind of overlap. A lot of scholars overlap them: globalization and transnationalism. So globalization is more refers to activities spanning social, economic, and political field, interaction and interconnection between countries and continents. So globalization is more on an abstract level, not on a human level, whereas transnationalism, hang on, this slides. Whereas transnationalism concerns individuals and civil societies, and how increased global connectedness affects those movements. Okay. Yes, Anushka.
Hello.
Yeah, Anushka, tell me.
I wanted to ask a question. Sorry, I'll just go back. Maybe my voice was not audible earlier.
No, it is audible. Please
Yeah.
ask.
I wanted to ask, now that you're saying ki, citizenship is more of a political idea about oneself. So is it not overlapping with the social construct of oneself?
Remember, an identity is a social construct anyway. So Anushka has multiple identities. Anushka has a gender identity, has a sexual identity. Anushka has a citizenship identity. Anushka would have a student identity and many other identities, which could include a daughter, a wife, a mother, multiple identities.
Okay.
At any moment of time, all of us work with multiple identities and we tend to prioritize one identity over another identity. So, for example, if Anushka was to go to the US, she would possibly present herself as an Indian, or she could present herself as a professional working in a particular organization. Those identities are fluid, Anushka.
So,
And all these identities are a social construct. Citizenship is more direct because citizenship is determined by a legal, it's a political thing because it's a legal identity which has been given to you. However, you can change your citizenship or change that legal identity. As you can change the identity of your profession, as you can change the identity of your relationship from a daughter to a wife to a mother, these are all identities which are changing. Anushka? Yes,
thank you.
Sophia. Yes, Sophia.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you if you would consider today's digital nomads to be transnationals or migrants.
So inevitably, all migrants which cross national boundaries are transnationals because they carry some part of their culture with them and connect back home.
Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you, sir.
that is why I said all diasporas would be transnational. All migrants who cross national boundaries. I last time I did add the word cross national boundaries, where Khushi came in and said that internal when you are that would not be migrants in terms of crossing national boundaries, but
Yeah.
as soon as you cross national boundaries, you are transnational
Okay.
because
Thank
you are dealing with multiple identities. So, for example, as soon as I cross my national boundary, let's say go to Nepal, there is a Nepali culture that I'm interacting with. Even though for going to Nepal, I don't need a visa, I can move back and forth. I'm a transnational because I'm dealing with two identities. And there are two nations in being. Sophia?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So, from here, there can also be another question
Yes.
that if living in my own home country, I'm interacting with someone from a different nationality. So, I think that interaction can also be attributed to transnational interaction in a
So,
way.
so inevitably, Shrestha, that's where the life becomes that much more interesting and confusing. So today, sitting at my home, I'm interacting with you in Dubai. And I might be working on a project which involves multiple, nationalities. Am I a transnational or am I an Indian? So again, there has been scholarly work on that in terms of do I need to travel across a national boundary to be a transnational, or I can be transnational on a virtual space. Shrestha?
Yes, sir. I think there are no clear cut distinctions anymore.
And interestingly, as time goes by and as globalization becomes more enmeshed, in fact, it's a very interesting thing today that we are so much connected and so much separated. And that's what I over a period of time in our classes, we have been talking about how transnationalism is negotiating with nationalism. The more we are getting connected, the more people are, having this, taking this stance of anti-immigrants. There are political parties, plugging in onto that anti-immigration sentiment, and the whole story of human history is about migration and immigration, or moving. So it's a kind of a thing, and that's where the academics and scholarly pursuit becomes interesting, because these are all points of views. There are no rights and wrong. In scholarly and academics, you don't look at right and wrong. You look at a point of view, and then you run with that point of view and say, where does it go? That's where the research comes in, and that's why Sada sir is talking about, if you are able to find topics of research around you, even if they are just ideas, they can fructify into something interesting, what Rohit has been able to do. In fact, the whole thing about human beings is the most interesting part. When you start talking and figuring it out, then you will figure out that there are so many things that you will never know about. Okay, let's take this forward. So quickly, civil society, group of individuals, institutions which are independent of state. So anytime any individual or a group of individuals or organizations, irrespective of state, it comes under civil society. Hang on. Does national identity exist independently or is determined by citizenship? National identity also is determined by citizenship, but that is just one part of it. And again, as I said, citizenship is more like a political thing. So you might, it's something like this. You do not love a country just because you are a citizen of a country. Citizenship is a political or a legal right given to you and gives you privilege in a particular nation or by a particular state. Your national identity is comprised. So, for example, an Indian national identity is what is called that Vasudev Kutumbakam. India always has been welcoming throughout history of all migrants anywhere in the world. That's what the Indian national character is, of welcoming. Yes, Anushka.
For this, we can take an example of refugees where they can have the national identity, but their identity is not governed by the citizenship of any nation they are moving into. So,
right, absolutely. But the refugees could be, so for example, the Rohingya refugees would be a citizen of Myanmar, but Myanmar refuses to treat them as a citizen. But they would definitely have a national identity of Myanmar. Anushka, you're right. Okay. Quickly, the definition of transnationalism, Schiller defined as a process by which immigrants build social fields that link together their country of origin and their country of settlement. So, inevitably, if a person is a diaspora, would also be a transnational. Transmigrants develop and maintain multiple relations: family, economic, social, organizational, religious, political, that span borders. That's how our identities are also multiple identities. It could be a familial identity, it could be economic identity, a social identity. Transmigrants take action, make decisions, and feel concerns and develop identities within social networks that connect them to two or more societies, inevitably the host society and the home society. That's what Schiller gave a definition. Hang on, my screen. Okay. So nationalism, transnationalism, and diaspora. Nationalism is characteristics as a strong belief among people who share a common language, history, and culture that interests of a nation state are paramount. This requires a strong sense of belonging, identity, and loyalty, where the benefits of membership are. So, citizenship is a way where benefits of a membership are required. You are a citizen of India and you get these many privileges as citizens of India, and other migrants or immigrants in India may not get those benefits. Or if you're a citizen of US, you will get these benefits, which other migrants or immigrants will not get. So citizenship then becomes a larger identity. Historically, migrant groups moved from one nation to another were expected to prove their belongings and loyalty by adopting the prescribed moral and political values of their nation of immigration. And that's one of the reasons, because that is the way here now, besides the identity, the notion of belonging comes. So I might be a citizen of a particular country. Do I feel belonged by that country? In fact, a lot of migrants, when they move into a new country, they might acquire the citizenship, but they may not feel a sense of belonging. In fact, when we were doing the Chinese diaspora, there was this article in the New Yorker or New York Times where this Chinese girl who moved from China to Canada to US acquired a US citizenship, but she writes she does not feel a sense of belonging. Permanent residents carried an expectation of acquired citizenship and nationality in those countries based on the notion of national assimilation. Now, these concepts become a little overlapping and confusing, because human identity or the way human functions is not a straightforward black and white scenario. For example, all Indian diasporas are not homogeneous, or any diasporas are not homogeneous. All migrants are not homogeneous. There are multiple identities into that. After a generation, many of these groups were fully assimilated in the dominant culture of the nation of immigration. For many, the connections with the country of emigration took the form of diaspora, the formation of tightly bound communities on the basis of common cultural and ethnic references between places of origin and arrival. In fact, the diasporic formation also depends on from where they came, where they settled, and which duration it happened. So it's quite possible that people would have traveled at multiple durations of time. There might be, for example, in the US, there were Indians who traveled before 47. Now, would they consider themselves as an Indian diaspora or a Pakistani diaspora or a Bangladesh diaspora? It's very confusing. Then there were people who traveled in the 60s. There were people who traveled in the 2000s. Now, all these people will not be forming a homogeneous diaspora. They will be different diasporas. And who would be classified as a diaspora and not? For example, the bonded and the indentured laborers a lot of times do not, for example, the African slave trade, millions of Africans were transported out of Africa. They do not come under the African diaspora, because African diaspora is the later part of the movement from Africa to the US or the Europe. So it becomes that much confusing. In fact, we have already crossed the time. Let me stop here. I think we will take one more class to complete this, because once you are able to understand this, then the rest of the course becomes much simpler. Any questions? Let me put my video on. Hi, guys.
Hi, sir. Small question.
Hi,
This is
Vikas.
Veera.
Yeah.
Veera.
Okay. Sorry. Vikas, you come after Veera. Yes, Veera.
Oh, it's okay. Is it a transnational person? Is it identity or not, sir? That means, as you mentioned, a person have different kind of identities, gender related, male, female, or mother, father, or citizenship is also one of the identity you mentioned, right?
Correct.
Like that. Now, transnational person, transnationalism is it identity or not?
Yes, transnational person will work with two or more identities. So, for example, if Veera travels from India to the US, Veera will have an American identity based on the place and the work that he is doing. He will also have an Indian identity. So, for example, Veera's American identity might be the American dress clothes that he is wearing, and at the same time, he might have an Indian religious identities of the rituals that he does at home. Veera,
Yes, sir.
got it?
Okay. That means it is also comes under the identity, but
Obviously,
more
obviously.
than two,
Veera,
three.
see, human beings cannot live without an identity. If I was
Yes, yes,
to
yes,
tell
sir.
anybody, who are you? I'm asking an identity question almost.
Mhm, mhm. Uh, yes.
Okay?
Hello. Yes, yes, sir. Second thing, sir, the difference between diaspora and transnationalism, what I understood from this class, that is, transnationalism is the person that is based on short-term staying in host country or one or more. Is it correct, sir?
Veera, it could be a short term, it could be a medium term, it could be a long term.
Uh, then diaspora, sir, it's long-term
Diaspora,
staying in the host
diaspora,
country.
diaspora is typically when people travel to a new country, permanently stay out there, and form
Yes.
local connections.
That means they are getting their citizenship from their host country. Is it correct?
Correct.
Legally.
They'll get a citizenship from the host country and form local connection based on the identity of the home country.
Okay, that means they are getting benefits from the host country also, right?
They are getting benefits from the host country in terms of citizenship.
Yes.
However, the cultural connections of the home country is what enables them to form, networks in the host country.
Yeah. Why I am asking, sir? Generally, for example, if you see this Union Public Service Commission notification, they mentioned few services not belongs to remaining persons. That means those who are from Nepal, Bhutan, all these things. Especially Indian Foreign Service, Indian Foreign Service. Only you have to born and brought up in India only.
You need a
Your
citizenship.
citizenship.
Correct.
Yes. Remaining services you can opt. That means those who are migrated from Nepal, Bhutan, certain limitations are there, but
Correct.
you can opt. But those who are, that means in diaspora means those who are long-term staying in our host country, they are benefiting through the citizenship. Because with the citizenship only, they will get the legal benefits. That means
Correct.
the jurisdiction, everything,
Correct.
right?
Veera, as I told you, citizenship is a privilege which a nation offers its citizens. It's a political, legal status. Veera?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Oh,
Now I understood what is the migration, what is transnationalism, what is the diaspora. Okay.
wonderful. Sada sir, you are
Yes,
raising
sir.
your hand.
Yeah.
Sada sir, you are raising your hand.
Abhay, actually, in the past course, we have mentioned in the theory, there are different types of diaspora. Ideal type.
Correct.
Okay. Ideal type is mostly Jews, Jews, they are the past diaspora, which is a referral group. Okay. There are different types of diaspora also. So in fact, there is lots of change in last 30 years, how the concept evolved and all this. So whenever you define or anybody define, there are something actually will be missing also. Okay, so that is the fluidity of this concept.
It's an extremely fluid concept. That's right.
So I wanted to highlight that.
Okay, Vikas, sorry,
Yes,
Veera,
yes, okay.
Vikas was raising his hand.
Yes, okay, sir.
Vikas? Hi, Vikas.
Sir, my question is not a very straightforward question, sir. But it is an assumption rather which I'm making, that the dilemma, as you mentioned about the Chinese girl living in US, having a identity dilemma whether she should associate with China or with US. So my assumption is that this dilemma goes away at the generations. The first generation migrant has the highest dilemma or the greatest dilemma he has, and the degree of dilemma reduces as the generations evolve from generation to generation, sir. So that is the assumption, sir.
Because unfortunately, sorry, can you hear me? It says my internet is unstable.
I can hear you, sir, loud and clear.
Okay. Because unfortunately, it is not that straightforward. Because more often than not, Indians who are second generation, who are born to Indian parents in the US, who have grown and schooled in the US, are confused in a different way. Because for a simple reason, as Shrestha talked about the fact that in Dubai, she met these people who looked like Indians. She expected them to be Indians, but they told her that they are Kenyans and Ugandans. Similarly, for example, look at the fact there is this brown skinned boy or a girl who's born and brought up in the US. He or she is brown skinned. Everybody can see that that's an Indian. They are expected to behave like an American. At home, their parents expect them to behave like Indians. It is a very confusing identity clash.
Understood.
So
Understood.
it is, so remember, it is not so easy, because the way I come up in society, it's all constructed. It's a socially constructed thing. I'm expected to do certain things, which then messes up with the way my identity gets structured. So in fact, that is why NRIs, we typically call them this confused desis, because somewhere down the line, the elder generation, the first generation, still thinks of India as that old India when they went. India has subsequently moved. They are talking to their offspring of that India which has moved, whereas these people, I have no connection to India. Now look at their confusion.
Sir, understood, sir.
Okay, great. Any other question? Okay. In case there is none other question, we have already overshot. Sanjeev. Yes, Sanjeev. Yes, Sanjeev. Sanjeev, then Anushka. Sanjeev, hi.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, as per my understanding, a little bit of confusion also.
Okay.
A migrant, a transnational, and a diasporic citizen is all common, I think so, sir. Because a migrant is traveling somewhere, that is, he is connected to transnational. Then a transnational is automatically a migrant, and he is also having connection with the diaspora. Is it, sir?
Sanjeev, typically diaspora are people, the classic definition works on people who have moved from a home country to a host country, have a longing for coming back, or you have their understanding of the home country, and they still have those connections back. But one of the thing is that diasporic people are ones who make networks in the host country based on ethnic or cultural or other consideration of the home country. Sanjeev?
Okay. But in that sense, sir, a migrant is also having connection both at his home as well as in the host country, sir. Maybe it might be
may not be.
Sir.
May not be.
May not be. Okay.
But at the same time, you're absolutely right. But there is another difference. The diaspora person has left the homeland and settled in hostland, whereas migrant has moved there.
Yeah. For purpose of settling or for some time being.
It could be either way. So once he settles, takes the citizenship of the host country and already is connected to people of the homeland in a network, he becomes a diaspora.
Sir, I have another question in this question, sir.
Please.
I mean, see, when we talk about citizenship, only when a person gets a citizenship, he cannot become, he may become diaspora. Even a migrant can also be a diaspora, no, sir?
So typically, the classic, again, with all these things, it starts with how are you defining, how are you categorizing, and where are you going with it. So more often than not, migration is it could be a temporary phenomena. People migrate for a better life, hoping to come back. Now, once the migrant stays for a considerable period of time to take up a residence in the host country, while he is networked with various people or groups from the homeland, he becomes a diaspora.
Okay, sir.
Sanjeev?
Yes, sir. But
Okay. Anushka, you were raising your hand.
To ask, as Khushi had quoted about this example where there was this another student in Dubai, although might be belonging from an might have an Indian ancestry, but they claim themselves to be Kenyan citizens. So could be a possibility that they have a national identity existing independently and be not govern their identity by the citizenship.
No, but the fact is those people would be citizens of Kenya and Uganda. Na? That's why they are saying they are from Kenya and Uganda. In all likelihood, their parents would have come to Kenya and Uganda from India. But
Yeah.
now they are citizens of Kenya and Uganda. Shrestha is looking at them from the Indian cultural point of view.
Okay.
But
Okay.
those people do not feel Indian, they feel Kenyan and Ugandan.
Right, sir.
Anushka, it is something like this. If you, let's say, are from Delhi and you come to Kerala, or you settle in Kerala, or you have gone to Kerala, the point is they will say, oh, you are from Delhi, but your ancestry might be from, let's say, West Bengal. So there is this kind of an identity confusion also. Where are you coming from?
Right. Right.
So those people would feel themselves to be Kenyan. Shrestha is looking them from the Indian point of view or the Indian framework and feeling they are Indians, but they are not feeling Indians. They are feeling from Kenya or Uganda. Anushka?
Right, right. As the students who actually migrate with their parents, they don't claim themselves to be belonging to a city, but then call themselves to be pan-Indians.
Absolutely. So this is a transnational in a way.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Sada sir has also added migrants are potential diasporas. Sanjeev? Okay. If there are no other further questions, we will meet next Saturday. We will try and close this because now after this, there is this concept of transnational citizens or transnational citizenship. So these become, because these are the core concepts. In fact, we started these units. We went with the case studies and we are coming back to theory. Normally people start with theory and then go to case studies, but to turn it on its head becomes all the more interesting because now you can relate to all those cases where you see that Dutch does not have a diaspora. They were not classified as a diaspora, or the British people who immigrated were not called as a diaspora at all. So then you are able to relate and say, oh, that's why they were not called. And then we will go into how there are various categories of transnational people from the bottom, from the top. We'll try and finish it in the next class and take it on from there. You have a wonderful week ahead. Wish you all a Merry Christmas, and we'll meet before the new year, sets.
Thank you, Abha. And I think we have another short meeting after your class.
Okay.
I request all the volunteers, please wait.
So I will leave. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, please.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
I also leave?
Yes, if you are interested in our seminar series, you please be here, but will not take much time.
Okay, I'll just attend. In case I'll have time, then I'll see.